Welcome to Innovation Brief by IdeaScale, where we turn your work team into innovators.
It's funny. In any company, a really big idea can come from anywhere, right? But how many of those ideas just sort of disappear because there's no real system for keeping track of them or refining them or actually putting them into action? That's what we're going to dig into today. Idea management and how a platform like IdeaScale can help you turn those almost brilliant moments into, well, a constant flow of innovation.
Yeah, I think that's a super important point. We talk a lot about creativity, but what about what happens after that brainstorming session?
Right.
Idea management is all about creating a system, like a bridge between those initial sparks and, tangible results.
So it's not leaving it to chance or just hoping the good ideas rise to the top. It's about having a plan.
You got it. It's a framework. It's got to be structured, but also flexible enough to let ideas flow freely, get evaluated fairly, and then boom, actually make an impact on the company.
I like that. So let's dig into this a little more. What are some of the biggest roadblocks companies face when it comes to effectively managing ideas?
Well, a really common one is just visibility or lack of it, really. Ideas get lost in emails, buried in files, stuck in conversations that never reach the right people.
It's like that old problem of information silos, but with ideas, huh?
Exactly. And that lack of transparency can be a huge downer for employees. Imagine having a brilliant idea, one that could transform the company, and then it just vanishes.
Poof.
Poof. It's demoralizing and it just kills innovation.
Right, you're getting at something important here, like the human side of this. If people feel like their ideas aren't being heard, why would they keep trying?
Absolutely. A solid idea management system doesn't just streamline things, it also empowers employees and builds a culture where everyone feels valued.
So it's not just about efficiency, it's about creating an environment where innovation can actually, thrive.
Exactly. It's about shifting from a culture where ideas are fleeting to one where they're treated as assets, like valuable things that need to be nurtured and developed.
I'm starting to see how this goes beyond just software. It's about changing the way a company thinks about innovation.
You're spot on. It's about making innovation part of the company's DNA, not just a side project.
And that's where a platform like IdeaScale comes in.
Exactly. IdeaScale is like a central hub where all those ideas, no matter where they come from, can be collected, evaluated, and moved forward in a transparent way and, structured way.
So instead of ideas getting lost in the shuffle, they have a place where they can be seen, talked about, brought to life.
Think of it as a digital greenhouse for your company's best ideas.
I like that. But let's get a little more practical here. How does IdeaScale actually tackle those challenges we talked about, like the lack of visibility and people feeling disengaged?
Well, first off, IdeaScale provides one easy-to-use platform where anyone in the company can submit their ideas. It breaks down those silos we talked about and makes sure that no good idea gets missed because it wasn't shared in the right place.
It's like democratizing innovation, huh? Everyone gets a voice, a chance to contribute.
Exactly. And that transparency, it's huge for engagement. When people see their ideas being taken seriously, reviewed by the right people, given a fair shot, they're way more likely to participate.
It's about ownership, right? People are invested because they know their voice matters.
That's it. But capturing ideas is just the first step, right? IdeaScale also has tools to streamline that whole evaluation and implementation process.
So those ideas don't just sit there.
Right. It's about creating a pathway, taking those ideas from inspiration to action.
Exactly. IdeaScale lets you set up custom workflows, basically guides for ideas to move through that whole process of review, refinement, and decision-making.
Okay, now things are getting interesting. Can you give me an example of how that might work, in real life?
Sure. Imagine someone, working on the front lines has a great idea for a new product feature. They submit it through IdeaScale, and based on the workflow, that idea goes straight to the product manager for review.
So the right people see it immediately. Exactly. From there, the product manager can check it out, give feedback, maybe assign it to a team for development. The platform lets everyone collaborate, have discussions, refine things, so the idea gets shaped by multiple people.
So it's not just point A to point B. It's about nurturing that idea, letting it evolve.
You got it. And throughout this whole journey, IdeaScale keeps things transparent. Employees can track their idea's progress, see the feedback it's getting, understand the reasoning behind decisions.
I can see why that kind of visibility would be so important for building trust. People stay involved because they feel like they're part of the process.
You're exactly right. Plus, it helps you spot any bottlenecks in the system, like if ideas keep getting stuck somewhere.
So you can identify areas that need improvement.
Right. It's like having a live dashboard for your company's innovation engine, so you can see what's working, what's not, and make adjustments as needed.
Exactly. And all of this is backed by data. IdeaScale has really robust analytics so you can track key metrics, identify trends, and make smarter decisions about which ideas to pursue and how to use your resources. So it's not just about ideas. It's about using data to make strategic decisions and, making sure your innovation efforts are aligned with your overall goals.
You're absolutely right. IdeaScale lets you move beyond gut feelings and make data-driven decisions about where to focus for maximum impact.
That's powerful stuff. But I'm also curious about the cultural impact. How does using a platform like IdeaScale change the way people in a company interact?
That's a great question. One of the best things about IdeaScale is that it breaks down silos and creates a culture of collaboration across different teams and departments.
So people are exposed to different perspectives, encouraged to think outside their usual bubble.
Absolutely. And you know what happens when you mix people with different backgrounds and expertise? You get a much richer set of ideas, more creative solutions.
It's about tapping into the collective intelligence of the entire company, not just a few people.
Exactly. That's what makes IdeaScale such a powerful tool for driving innovation and building a truly innovative culture. It's about empowering everyone, encouraging collaboration, and using data to make smarter decisions about where to focus your efforts.
I can definitely see how this could be a game changer for companies.
It definitely can be. And to really illustrate this, let's look at a real-world example of how IdeaScale has been used to drive innovation and get results. Are you familiar with what New York University has done with the platform?
New York University. Oh, yeah. They're known for being, a leader in higher education. But how does a platform like IdeaScale fit into a university setting?
It's a really cool case study, actually, especially because universities have some unique challenges when it comes to innovation. You've got so many different people involved, students, faculty, administrators, alumni, each with their own perspectives.
Yeah, it's like a mini version of the real world with all its complexities. So how did NYU make it work with IdeaScale?
Well, they've used it in a bunch of different ways, but one that really stands out focused on improving student life. They realized that students themselves have tons of great ideas, but there wasn't a clear way for them to share those ideas and see them become reality.
It's like having all this potential just waiting to be unlocked.
Exactly. So NYU used IdeaScale to create a platform just for students where they could submit suggestions for anything they wanted to see improved, from campus facilities to academic programs to, even extracurricular activities.
So giving students a voice, letting them shape their own experience.
Exactly. And the results were amazing. They got a flood of ideas from students across all different disciplines and backgrounds. Some were simple things like better lighting in study areas or making it easier to book event spaces. Others were more ambitious, like creating new interdisciplinary courses or launching student-run initiatives.
So they weren't just collecting ideas, they were actually putting them into action.
Absolutely. That's what's so great about the NYU case study. They had a system for evaluating and prioritizing the best ideas, and they actually put resources behind making them happen.
Can you give me an example of a student-led project that came out of this?
Sure. One cool example was the creation of a student-run makerspace, basically a dedicated space where students could work together on projects, experiment with new technologies, really bring their creative ideas to life.
That's awesome. Sounds like IdeaScale really helped create an environment where students could innovate.
It did. And it wasn't just about physical spaces. IdeaScale also helped launch new student-led programs, like a mentorship program connecting current students with alumni working in their fields.
It's inspiring to see how IdeaScale can empower people to make a difference. But let's talk a bit more about the platform itself. We've touched on features like idea capture and workflows, but how does IdeaScale encourage collaboration and feedback?
Well, it's way more than just a place to submit ideas. It has a whole bunch of tools specifically designed for discussions, feedback, and working together to refine ideas.
So it's a two-way street. Ideas don't just disappear. There's a back and forth, a chance to shape and improve them.
Exactly. It's like a virtual brainstorming session that never ends, where everyone can contribute their thoughts, build on each other's ideas, and really move things forward together.
So what kind of features does IdeaScale have for this?
One big one is the ability to comment directly on ideas. People can give feedback, ask questions, suggest improvements, or just show their support for an idea.
It's like having a built-in focus group for every idea.
That's a great way to put it. And to make sure the feedback is helpful, people can upvote or downvote comments, so the most insightful ones rise to the top.
Kind of like a self-filtering system.
Exactly. And to make collaboration even easier, people can form teams around specific ideas. So if you're really passionate about something, you can team up with others who feel the same way and work on it together.
It's like harnessing the power of teamwork.
Right. And to keep those teams organized, IdeaScale has tools for assigning tasks, tracking deadlines, and reporting progress.
So it's structured, not just a free-for-all.
Exactly. It's starting to sound like IdeaScale is more than just software. It's like a whole philosophy of innovation.
Yeah, a way to structure and manage the entire process, from idea to implementation.
You're absolutely right. It's about creating a culture where innovation is baked into the company's DNA, where everyone feels empowered to contribute and ideas are treated like, valuable assets.
And that brings us back to data-driven decision-making. How does IdeaScale help companies use data to make smarter choices about which ideas to pursue?
That's a huge part of what makes IdeaScale so powerful. It doesn't just manage ideas, it gives you tons of data and analytics to help you make strategic decisions. You can track things like how many ideas are being submitted, the average rating of those ideas, how engaged people are, and how ideas are progressing through the pipeline.
It's like having that live dashboard for your innovation engine that we were talking about earlier. You can see what's working, what's not, and spot areas for improvement.
Exactly. And this data can be super helpful in identifying trends, figuring out the potential impact of different ideas, and deciding where to focus your resources.
So you're making strategic choices, not just throwing ideas at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Precisely. IdeaScale gives you the information and the tools to make those choices with confidence.
This is all making a lot of sense. But I'm also thinking about the practical side of things. Implementing a platform like this sounds like a big job, especially for large companies.
It's true that you need a plan, but IdeaScale is designed to make it as easy as possible. They have a ton of resources and support to help companies of all sizes get up and running.
So it's not just buying the software and hoping for the best. There's actual help available.
Totally. IdeaScale has a whole team dedicated to helping with implementation. They'll work with you to figure out your specific needs, set up the platform the right way, and give you ongoing support.
That's good to know. It shows they're invested in their clients' success.
Exactly. They understand that technology is just one piece of the puzzle. You need the right people, the right processes, and the right culture to make it all work.
Speaking of culture, we've talked about how IdeaScale can help with collaboration and engagement, but what about agility? Being able to respond quickly to changes. That's so important in today's world.
You're right, and that's another area where IdeaScale shines. By creating a central hub for innovation and providing tools for rapid prototyping and experimentation, it helps companies be more nimble and adaptable.
So it's not just about having good ideas, it's about being able to test those ideas quickly and adjust based on feedback.
Exactly. And by building a culture of continuous innovation and experimentation, IdeaScale helps companies stay ahead of the curve.
It sounds like a really valuable tool for any company that wants to make innovation part of its DNA. But there's one last thing I want to touch on before we wrap up this part of the discussion. Security.
That's a really important point. When you're sharing so much sensitive information on a platform, security has to be a top priority.
That's a huge concern. And IdeaScale gets that. They take security very seriously. They've got all these measures in place to protect your data and keep those ideas safe.
So what kind of measures are we talking about here?
Well, they use like industry standard encryption to protect data. So your ideas are safe, whether they're being submitted, reviewed, or stored.
That's good to hear. But what about access control? How do they make sure only the right people can see those sensitive ideas?
IdeaScale has really specific access controls. So you can decide exactly who sees what. You can set up different user roles with different levels of permission so confidential data stays confidential.
So you could have admins with full access, reviewers who can check out and evaluate ideas, and then regular users who can just submit their own ideas.
Yeah, exactly. And you can customize those roles to fit how your company works.
That's awesome. It gives you a lot of control.
It does. And on top of encryption and access controls, IdeaScale also has this whole system for auditing security.
So you can see who accessed what information and when.
You got it. That's important for keeping things accountable and spotting any suspicious activity.
Wow, it sounds like they've really thought of everything.
They really have. And they're always updating their security, staying ahead of any new threats.
That's great. It gives you peace of mind knowing your ideas are safe and sound.
Exactly. Security is a big deal for IdeaScale, and they're all about providing a safe and trustworthy place for innovation.
Well, it seems like we've covered a lot in this deep dive into IdeaScale. We've talked about the challenges of idea management, explored all those awesome features, and really seen how it can help companies unlock their innovation potential.
We've talked about collaboration, transparency, data-driven decisions, and of course, security.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's even more to discover.
Definitely. For this final part, let's talk about what this means for leaders like you. How can you use IdeaScale to turn your teams into, real innovation powerhouses?
That's the million-dollar question. We've seen what IdeaScale can do, but now it's about putting it into practice.
Absolutely. And the good news is it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It's about having a plan, taking it step by step, and making sure it aligns with your goals.
Okay, so let's break it down. What are some of the key things leaders should keep in mind when they're introducing IdeaScale, making it a core part of their innovation strategy?
First things first, you got to define what success looks like for your company. What are you trying to achieve with innovation? Faster product development, better customer service, a more collaborative culture overall.
So figure out your goals before you even start using the platform.
Exactly. You want to make sure IdeaScale is working towards your strategic objectives so you can measure its impact and show its value.
Makes sense. So once you know your goals, what's next?
Communication is key. You got to tell your team why you're implementing IdeaScale, how it fits into your overall strategy, and what benefits you expect to see. Get people excited, get them on board from the start.
So it's not just about the software. It's about bringing people along and showing them how it can empower them.
You got it. And that means not just talking at people, but also listening to their feedback. What are their concerns? How do they think IdeaScale can best fit into their workflows?
Creating a sense of ownership from the get-go.
Exactly. And that's where IdeaScale's customization features come in. You can tailor the platform to match your company's structure, processes, and culture.
Could you give me an example of how that might work?
Sure. Let's say you have a really complex organization with lots of different product lines or business units. You can create separate workspaces within IdeaScale for each one, so each team can focus on their own innovation goals while still seeing what's happening across the company.
So you have that balance between focused work and big picture collaboration.
Exactly. And you can even customize the workflows within each workspace to match how those teams operate.
So it's really adaptable to different structures and ways of working. But what about the culture side of things? How can leaders make sure IdeaScale is embraced and used effectively?
Building an innovative culture doesn't happen overnight, right? It takes time, encouragement, and a willingness to try new things, celebrate successes, and learn from mistakes.
Right. The platform is important, but ultimately it's the people who drive innovation.
Absolutely. Leaders have a big role to play in setting that tone. They need to walk the walk, participate in IdeaScale, give feedback, and recognize people who contribute great ideas.
Creating an environment where people feel safe to share their ideas, even if they're a little out there.
Exactly. It's about moving away from fear and saying, hey, let's experiment, let's learn, let's grow.
I like that. But what about the ideas that don't get picked? How do you handle that so people don't get discouraged?
That's a good point. And that's why transparency throughout the process is so important. IdeaScale lets you give feedback at each stage, so even if an idea isn't chosen, the person who submitted it knows why and what they can learn from it.
So every idea is treated with respect, and there's always constructive feedback.
Right. And it's equally important to celebrate the ideas that do get implemented. Share those success stories, show the impact, and recognize the people behind them.
That creates a positive cycle, right?
Mhm.
It encourages people to keep participating and shows them that innovation is valued.
Exactly. It's about building a culture where everyone feels responsible for innovation, not just a select few.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with this. In today's world, innovation isn't just a bonus. It's essential.
I couldn't agree more. And platforms like IdeaScale give you the tools and the structure to make innovation a systematic part of any company.
It's about tapping into your team's collective intelligence, building a culture of creativity, and using data to make smart decisions.
And at the end of the day, it's about turning your work team into innovators, ready for anything.
If you're ready to get started, we encourage you to check out IdeaScale.com and book a demo for a free trial.
See for yourself how IdeaScale can help you turn your company into an innovation powerhouse.
And don't forget to subscribe to the Innovation Brief for new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.
We want to hear what you think about this deep dive. Leave a comment below and let us know what you found most interesting. Until next time, keep innovating.